Ani Bojo, Dewagwekwe and Dejnaka, Shawanaga and Dinji, Toronto and Dinjaba. Hello, my name is Destiny Rae, and I just introduced myself in my language, which is Anishinaabe Moen. I said my spirit name is Autumn Woman. I'm from Shawanaga First Nations, but I currently reside in Toronto, and I come to you today once again to share another traditional recipe. And this one is really cool because it's known all across North America by many different tribes, and it's called Three Sisters Soup. And it's called that because of the companionship planting that happens between these three plant allies. I have corn, I got beans, I got squash. And if you've ever been to a corn field, you know that corn grows straight up in stalks. Beans usually need something to climb on, spiral around, so it's a great partner for corn. Squash usually needs lots of room to sprawl out on the ground, and it has these spiky leaves and vines which keep out pests, but also the size of the leaves themselves, they shade the soil and keep the moisture in. And then the beans are able to pull nitrogen out of the air into their roots, which is a natural fertilizer, and then they all work together in a beautiful symbiotic partnership, sistership, and that's why it's called Three Sisters Soup. I'm really excited about this recipe, but I'm also really hungry, so let's get into it. Starting off, I have some hominy corn, some red kidney beans, but you can use a bean of your choice. I have a butternut squash, but again, any squash of your choice. Some green onions for garnish, yellow onions, garlic, thyme, cumin, salt and pepper, and bay leaves, tomato paste, some vegetable stock, and some olive oil, and of course, a measuring cup. To begin, I'm going to start by peeling my butternut squash with a really sharp peeler. Take your time, I know it can be tricky, but it can be done with a sharp peeler. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut my butternut squash in half. I cut them lengthwise into sticks so that I can then start to cut them into cubes. And I'm trying to keep them roughly the same shape, but if I miss any, I just go back in and chop them down to size. This part is optional as well, but I decided to scoop out the seeds so I could roast them and use them as a garnish on top afterwards. After I did that, I went ahead and cubed the bottom half the same way I did to the top. Then I diced my onions, and I sliced up my garlic. And I don't know if you know this, but if you slice your garlic versus chopping it, it's a little bit more mild, so do whichever one feels right to you. I also diced up my green onions for the garnish. In a large pot, I added the 2 tablespoons of oil along with the onion so they can saute first and brown up, get some depth of flavor. I also added the spices so they can bloom and really come alive. I did this over medium-high heat, keeping an eye on the pan, making sure nothing stuck to the bottom, and just waited until the onions became translucent. Once they were good to go, I added the beans and the corn. Then of course I added the stock, gave it a stir so all the ingredients were thoroughly combined. Then I turned it up to high so it could start to come to a boil. Once it was at a rolling boil, I put a lid on it, turned it down to low, and I set my timer for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, everything was perfectly cooked. I knew this by doing the fork test on a piece of squash. The fork went through like butter, so I knew it was ready to go. Finally, after all that hard work, the only thing left to do was to plate it up and make it look pretty with some garnishes. So there we have it, Three Sisters Soup. That was super easy, wasn't it? I mean, I know I've said that before, but this one really is very simple to put together, and the payoff is totally worth it. I know it's going to be delicious, so let's give it a try right now. Yep. The hominy corn has this slight bite to it. The squash is perfectly cooked, tender, slightly sweet. And the beans have had the time to soak up all the flavors from the broth. So the perfect marriage between the three. I know this would be a great recipe to share with your family and friends, your brothers, or your sisters. But until next time, Baamaapii, I'm gonna keep on eating this bowl.